But I wanted to do this interview with you for so long.
Thank you.
Because of all of the ideas, because of the bravery with which you put out these ideas, and people don't acknowledge this enough. But to be the sort of sane voice in the desert requires a certain amount of bravery, especially today, and I think that's really cool. So let me start off by talking about the new book. And this is Shyam. It's the story of Krishna.
Yes.
And I'll come to the illustrations, which I love, in a bit. But tell us about this book. How is it different from the stack that we've already read? And what's the story here?
So I have been writing for the last 20 years. And Ramayana and Mahabharata are the two big epics in India. So there is a book on Ramayana, there's a book on Mahabharata. Bhagavata is the third big epic in India, but it is never really, we don't notice it. So when you say Krishna's story, it's very scattered.
Yes.
It's scattered. So there is a Bhagavat where he's doing the Ras Leela, there's Mahabharata where there is the... And nobody really has it strung together in a single, simple narrative.
And a lot of Krishna's stories are stories that our grandmothers tell us.
Yes.
Like when he was a baby, this happened, and then this happened, and that happened.
So it's the only deity in India which is seen from every stage of life. So it's an infant, a toddler, a prankster, a lover, a husband, a friend, a student.
Yes.
So every aspect of life flowers as the story progresses. That's the way Bhagavad.
What I love about the book is that you've also taken us through from the beginning of the story. Why did he live life as a human? Why did he not automatically become a king like Ram or like the Pandavas? Why was he a charioteer? So all of those, piecing all of that together, because like you said, nobody's ever done that, right? We've only read parts of him in in folklore, in some specific stories. So I think that's the really interesting bit. How long did you have to research, or how deep did you have to research to sort of string all of that together?
Well, I've been doing it a long time, so now it's not that difficult. The difficulty is to sort of make it seamless. So when somebody reads it, they'll say, "Oh, that's so simple."
Yes.
The trick is that you work hard enough so that when you finally read it, it looks, "Oh, this is the most obvious thing. Of course we knew it, but you didn't know it before." And that's the thing you have to do, because you're reading. We don't realize that, the same story is written in Sanskrit. It's written in every regional language. There are poetries written by poet saints, from Tamil Nadu, from Andhra Pradesh, from Maharashtra, from Kashmir.
I've read portions of this story in what we call Hale Kannada, which is old Kannada, which was written thousands of years ago, in sonnets, which is amazing. And the fact that the story matches what you're writing today is so cool. And I want you. So there's a portion of the book where you actually draw the parallels between the versions of Krishna down south, the versions of Krishna up north, because Krishna and all of those stories are fundamentally, are centered around Mathura. They're North Indian stories, but we have versions in the south as well.
Yeah, and east. I'm from Odisha, and the Jagannath temple has its own body of knowledge over there, and every temple, like whether it's Udupi in Karnataka, or it's Thiruvananthapuram, or it is Guruvayur temple in Kerala. So it's, we do know that in India there is a sort of North Indian Hindi chauvinism, and sort of it obscures the rest of India. It doesn't exist. But like there's stories from Assam, and everywhere Krishna is very different. Shankardev, Manipur. So every part of India has a Krishna story. And to restrict it to a Gangetic plain, from where of course the stories emerged, but they became popular in every part of the country, and that becomes important.
I love the illustrations. And I said this to you before we started, and I remember I forgot to ask you earlier, who does these? And you just said you do them.
Yes.
And they've sort of become, signature to your columns, your Twitter page, and also your books. Where did the idea come from? And
see, I'm trained in medicine, right? So my science background is that you write, in medicine you have to do a lot of diagrams. Nobody bothered about language. Grammar doesn't matter in science. They'll say just write and put some diagrams. So diagram was very important to me as part of my education process. And for me, this is not an illustration as much as it's a diagram. I'm helping a person, so you express your idea through words and through lines. And the readers today have attention deficit disorder, so they don't read long stuff. You give them small stuff and then put an image there, a few bullet points, and it's designed like a guidebook. If you see some of those engineering textbooks are written with grey boxes, so it's designed in an accessible way. Gods don't have to be intimidated.
I'm actually going to hold this up, and this is how a lot of your books are designed.
Yeah.
You have these, sort of highlighted bits. You have a lot of visuals, and the illustration provides a lot of relief.
Yeah.
Also because they tend to be stories that need to be imagined.
Yes.
They're not everyday stories. So there's a lot of imagination involved, at least for the audience, and the illustrations are simply gorgeous, and they have, it's specifically your style. There's, it's nowhere near anything else I have seen. So
thank you so much. So I like the simple black and white because again, no clutter. Yes. I like to avoid clutter. And the whole idea is, how do you get to the reader to get excited about this whole culture? It's a visual culture. Indians are visual. We have color. Our temples are everywhere. Our clothes are colorful.
Yes, I particularly like this one. I don't know if the camera can get it. If the camera can get it, this is such a gorgeous illustration of Lord Krishna. Let me hold that up for you. You can see it. All right, great. I really love this. This one, the toddler. Yes, Laddu Gopal. I love it. There's something so beautiful about Laddu Gopal, and I think that's the endearing bit. But specifically in this book, before we get to the larger universe of your work, you have talked about Krishna specifically is a god who is not. He doesn't suit the Western idea of a god. Right? He's not moralistic. He's a lover. He encourages Yudhishthira to lie during the war. He encourages, to some level, Chalkapat, yes. And you brought that out. And you said that perhaps it was the British idea of what morality should be that caused us to cover up our gods. Krishna particularly, in his androgyny, the way he looked and all of that. Explain that to me.
See, it's a paradigmic difference. And it's a fundamental difference between the East and the West. East and West... and East and West, I'm using it notionally, but the religions which emerged from Near East and spread around the world, God is a judge, and therefore, and you live only once. All these religions believe you live only once. So you have to live this one life, you want to live it the right way.
Yes.
And therefore you turn to God and His messenger who gives you the set of rules, follow these rules, and you'll go to heaven. Don't follow these rules, you'll go to hell. I'm paraphrasing it.
Humans come with a user manual.
Yeah. God's way of living. This is the God's way of living. This is not there in Buddhism, Jainism, Hinduism.
Yes. So the Eastern, perhaps the more ancient wisdom sees human beings differently.
So here, they see the rules are not so important as much as your relationship between the mighty and the meek.
Okay.
See, rules essentially are created to regulate power. So that in the jungle, the mighty eat the meek. That's how the law of the jungle.
Yes.
In civilization, that is not acceptable. That is why it's called civilization.
Yes.
The mighty have to help the meek. And that's the meaning of dharma. So everybody tells me dharma is a very complicated thing. And I'm like, no. I have gone through Shatapatha Brahmana, I've read all the scriptures. It's consistent. It is the mighty shall help the meek.
Yes.
So it's not whether you lie or you're honest. It says in that context, are you helping the meek or exploiting the meek? That's the idea. The idea is not whether you lie or are honest. You will be very honest and exploit the meek. Then it's not dharma. So it's not about right and wrong.
But a lot of people could use that argument then to justify a lot of the wrong things they do, saying my intention was to help.
Of course. And that's why Krishna has the Udyoga Parva where he catches the crook. Because we can fool ourselves so beautifully, right? The greatest delusion is to imagine that we are nice people. But the fact is, when you are aware of your strength and power, and you're using words, clever words, that's what Duryodhan does. Duryodhan is continuously saying that I am the victim, I am the victim, I am the victim. And Krishna is like, who are you fooling? And you're using the law to protect. You're not willing to share a needle point of territory I will not share.
Yes.
Now that is territorial animal behavior. To not share is not human. So you stop behaving like a human. I will not treat you like a human.
I will treat you like an animal.
I'll treat you as animals. And when you hunt an animal, it's not a crime. And so it's a very complex way of looking at the world. It is now. So everything has a point of thing. Is that
I suppose it makes sense because it is now. Because now the mighty has become weak. The tiger needs to be protected from us.
Because now it's become the meat. So you have to take, that's what civilized behavior is all about. So today if you go and kill a wild animal, people say, what is wrong with you? They are an endangered species. So everything is contextual. So Ram, when he's king, is not he's mighty. It's a role he has to perform because he's the eldest son of a royal family. It's not something he chose and he meritocracy and he fought to become a king. He was just the accident of karma. You're born in a particular, you do the duties whether you like it or not.
So apply that to today, and you know, there are so many different ideas we are now dealing with in the country, right, or in the world. I might be mighty because I'm upper class and educated. I might be meek in another area of my life, maybe because of my sexual orientation, or I might be meek in a different. So we can't actually, so we're actually mighty and meek given the situation that we are in.
That's why it is called dharma sukshma. That's subtle. That's why you cannot have a set of rules. That's why India never had a set of rules. They'll always say, see the context, see the context, see the context. And in every context, you have to see what Krishna trying to do. So everybody tells me that, you know, Krishna cheated in the war. I said, so what did he get at the end of the war? And because if you cheat, you're doing it for yourself, right? I'll get benefits. But in the end, he gets a curse that your entire family will die, and you'll witness your children, your grandchildren, your entire family destroy themselves, and you'll be shot dead by a hunter like an animal in the jungle. That's what Krishna gets for fighting the dharma sthapana. So that's karma, right? You may say I'm following dharma, but rules of karma, you've broken the Kaurava's mother's heart, Gandhari's heart.
Yes.
That is also true. Her pain is true. Her curse is therefore true. So Krishna, who establishes dharma, is cursed. So I keep telling people when they say, "Humko dharma sthapana karna hai," I said, "Haan, shraap ke liye razi ho? Are you ready to receive the curse of the people you hurt?" Because that Krishna had no problem. He said, "This is what has happened." And his entire family and clan, here is God watching his entire family being destroyed. Why? Because somebody cursed him. And this is the whole narrative. And that's what we don't want to deal with, these aspects of it. Or when Arjun is fighting the war, and you know, Bhagavad Gita is seen as a motivational speech, but at the end of it, Arjun loses all his children. So what victory did they get? It's a Pyrrhic victory. But no, you know, when you show it on television, you'll make it sound like battle of good over evil and the Kauravas have been defeated. It's not that simple.
It's not that simple. Also, the idea that Arjuna was being taught by his charioteer while he was in the middle of a war. So this is not something that, this is not teaching of leisure.
No. So it's a crisis management.
It's crisis management. That's nicely
See,
put.
this is, India had two major forces. One is the monastic orders, which was saying withdraw from the world, withdraw from the battle. And mostly Buddhism and Jainism were in that department. And Hinduism countered this by saying that no, you should participate in the world, and participation is key to life. And so it's dramatically demonstrated by these things, like in the middle of the battlefield, you're being given a discourse. So that means you have to participate in the war. You have to fight. So they didn't have simple things. What is violence? What is non-violence? It's continuously being discussed.
Right. Facebook is going completely bonkers right now. We have Aparna Jayashankar who said, I've already read the book, wonderful. Is it out yet and available in stores?
Yes,
I thought I had to pre-order mine. Okay. Not much of the Bhagavad Gita in it, but all kinds of little interesting facts and explanations which are so great, is what she says. Asim Arun has said, I'm a big fan of Devdutta Patanaik ji since his articles first started in the midday. I've read most of his books, very enthralling and interesting in today's time. Since we're talking about today's time, and you also in the book mention how Krishna, since this book is about Krishna, you talked about how he was androgynous perhaps in his appearance, also in his, you know, the fact that he was a sexual god. And a lot of that has been denied. Is modern religion or modern Hinduism today denying portions of us that are perhaps inconvenient?
Yeah, well, it's not inconvenient. It is just that some people can't handle it.
Okay.
You know, we have privileged celibacy over love. And that
so
if you see all the Gurujis and all, they privilege celibacy, and they don't privilege love. And love of every form, physical, psychological, emotional, intellectual.
You know, I personally believe, and I was raised Catholic, I believe that asking someone to be celibate their entire life is perhaps unnatural, and also in that way asking for trouble, because you're putting someone on the wrong side of their own beliefs. I mean,
and your body is going to crave things. We should not underestimate the power of our body. And that's why Krishna is called Shringar Murti. He spends all his time adorning himself with sandal paste, and it's very feminine almost, with his little peacock feather and silks. The idea being the body is important. And in India, there were always two parallel streams. There was what is called the body consciousness. So one can call it the tantric way, which is tantra. valuing the body. And then there is the Vedic way.
Yes.
And the Vedic way was, over time, not originally, but over time became far more towards the monastic and celibate side. And they were running parallel. So in a traditional temple, 300 years ago, if you went to a temple, there would be Devdasis inside, there would be priests, there would be monks, and they would live in sort of relative harmony with some tension between them. But when the British came, they said that, this physical side of your religion is horrible. And we should
first of all cover up.
Cover up. So women didn't cover themselves. Or suddenly they
in the South, yes.
And then now you're feeling ashamed of it. You're made to shame associated with your body. You start to cover it. People don't understand that in India, our body, the temple celebrates the body.
Yes.
Shringar is celebrated everywhere, and there's no issue. It's just a matter of fact.
There's enough written about the fact that the British thought that as a race, we ate a lot of spice and we were far too sexually charged.
Yeah.
They found it offensive. They found that the race itself was far too sexually charged. The white man's burden was then to remove that sexual energy from the race.
And even today the colonized mind exists because we genuinely see eroticism as something bad.
Yes.
It is to be balanced. Everything has a place. When you're young, at old, everything. There's a time, the nature is sexual in some parts of the time, not all the time.
Yes.
Right? There's a time when it'll be fertile and it'll be bursting with flowers and like all the plants are excited. But not all the time.
All the time.
The season changes and then the plant is no longer, it's now celibate sometime. So this understanding of sexuality and balancing things out, the 4 goals of Hinduism were dharma, so responsibility, artha, success, kama, fun. Just have fun. And moksha, freedom from everything.
And obviously you have to go through those phases. So unlike the other beliefs, you can't just give everything up on one day. You have responsibilities.
You have responsibility. Your wife, it's like, I want to be celibate, but you're married. What about your wife's desires?
Yes.
You can't just walk away and take a decision one day and okay, bye-bye. What about to deny her pleasure in a society, then, or you will not let her have pleasure, and there's sort of a perverse satisfaction in denying other people pleasure. So this Puritanism, this Victorianism started emerging in the 19th century.
And so homophobia?
Well, we don't know whether homophobia existed, but this, remember, it's not a rule-based society in India, right? So we never had a rule saying this is wrong. It's just people had different kinds of sexual behavior. I don't want to go to the extreme of saying that people were comfortable
cool
with
it,
cool with it, and there were gay clubs happening everywhere.
Although that would have been nice.
That's a very 21st century and 20th century phenomena. This whole idea.
No, but a lot of the arguments that we get is that being gay is not in the Indian culture.
Yes.
It's not our culture. Which I find difficult to believe, because the fundament, the 377, again the British brought with them. It's a law, it's in the Bible, it's in their laws, so we know where it came from.
See, the thing is, to deny somebody something makes us feel powerful. And that's a way of becoming powerful, right? नहीं, हमारे शास्त्रों में नहीं लिखा है. बेटी तुम ये नहीं कर सकते, लड़के तुम ये नहीं कर सकते. So by denying you access to pleasure,
never thought of that.
It makes you feel powerful. So anybody who says that you can't do this, especially when the person doing it doesn't hurt anyone, is just this sheer ego massage. It's like, I call it ego orgasm. Because you can't get it out any other way, because you can't have pleasure. You have never been in love. You don't know what it feels for your body to be adored and to be celebrated. You will not let others do it. Because
so this whole idea of denying someone the ability to love, denying someone the ability to attain or to get pleasure, which they have a right to, this moral idea of girls should not do this, should not wear that, should not go here. And let's be honest, in India, we deny women their sexuality.
Yeah, completely. They're stripped of their sexuality. Yes. And this, recently I just read some paper just on the way about this another honor killing. And you just kill because she didn't marry the man of your choice. And these are all just ego massage. I said, wherever there's Atmagyan, wherever you understand, you're genuinely a spiritual person, you let it be. Every plant is androgynous, right? It has male and female partner. I keep telling people, jahan har ped kinnar hota hai. And they say, what do you mean? I said, every plant has a male side, male organ and a female organ.
Yes.
So it's a kinnar, right?
Yes.
So then there's a silence in the room. I said, Prakriti mein there is homosexuality. In nature it is there. Now culture has to decide whether it will accommodate it or not accommodate it. And it will not accommodate because it doesn't have the maturity to accept other people's love. And
the maturity that nature has.
That nature has. Nature allows everybody everything. Culture plays, because also in nature, the strong feed on the weak. In culture, the strong have to take care of the weak. And therefore, marginalized communities, sexual minorities, women are not allowed to have pleasure in our country. Bhog, vilas. Therefore, Krishna, when he does the Rasa Leela, the women are coming adorned at night outside the village.
Yes.
I mean, imagine they're coming bedecked, bejeweled, wives, mothers. Yes. They are leaving their house, secretly going into the middle of the forest to dance with this young man. They're feeling safe. Right. They're feeling there is, in this place, they feel they're acknowledged, their desires acknowledged. And that's what the Rasa Leela is about, where the person is looking at you and allowing you to express your desire. And dance, and that's the dance.
So the whole idea right now, in India at least, that Nari Tomari Maa hai. So you're already, it's like Bollywood, right? Where you're a really young person, you've already been, just fast forwarded into being a mother. So you're not allowed to be sexual, you're not allowed to be young, you're not allowed to have desires, you're expected to already be mother-like.
No, see, this is the son who suffers from sexual jealousy. Okay. Because mothers also have sexual desires. Mother also has a lover. She has a husband, she has... Why are you denying your mother sexual pleasure? Because you can't think of mummy having sex with daddy.
Yes.
We don't want to see our parents as sexual beings. They are people also. So when you see the images of Raj Rajeshwari or these grand goddesses in India, they're sitting on top of their husbands, enjoying themselves and giving audience to their devotees. So these images are very sexual. When you read Adi Shankaracharya, he's a celibate monk, he writes the song on the goddess, Saundarya Lahari, waves of beauty, Saundarya, beauty, Lahar, Lahari. And he's describing her, it's an extremely erotic verse. He has no problem looking at his mother as an erotic being. Or when you read Govardhan and all these poets who have written Arya Saptasati, the descriptions of Lakshmi who adore, who falls in love with Vishnu when he's taken the form of Mohini. So the goddess loves her husband when he becomes feminine.
Yes.
This is eroticism at another level, but these are our ancient scriptures where there is complete comfort with pleasure. And at one day, the Bhartrihari, 15 days of the year, of the month, he would be a monk. 15 days he would be in his inner quarters with all the queens and harems enjoying life. Then he'll get bored of it, again he'll go and become a monk, and then again he'll come back.
So I actually want to ask you, so if we grow up and remove 377 in this country, will we be perhaps more Indian?
Yes, we will be. I think I think if we Section 377 is just one of the many laws that have to go. Right now, the adultery law.
The adultery law. The adultery law. And makes my head spin. But
so the strange laws belonging to some puritanical Western ideas. We are not.
But I wanted to ask you about. Sorry, I'm rushing through this because I have so much to ask and so little time. You wrote a column about the diversity inside of Islam.
Yes.
Is the Islamophobia that we are seeing also fundamentally un-Indian? Because we were taught to chill, right? We accept everyone, just relax.
When we look at any culture or any civilization, we should always remind ourselves very simple things. That Islam is also of many types. There is a good side, there's a bad side. Today what has happened is, there is one group which is, Islamophobia everybody knows, but there is also Islamofetishization. And these two are the extreme ways of thinking, two extreme, and they control the discourse. The truth is somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between,
So today, I remember I put a tweet across where I was questioning that, in European countries, there's a huge problem. There are refugees coming from the Middle East, but they are not willing to give their daughters or people around them women's rights or LGBT rights. I got Islamophobic. I said, no, that's not Islamophobic. I'm just raising an uncomfortable question. But the moment you gag me with Islamophobia, that's a dangerous thing. Or label me. This is a very clever way of gagging. This is a problem. And that's what our government in India did. We did not acknowledge. I mean, when you will say Islam, who will they go to? They'll go to the most backward mullah in town and appease them, rather than the more liberal people. And there's a spectrum, right? You select your
some of the most wonderful artists and scholars in our country are Muslim.
So the government would always go to these dark, who have control over a vote bank lobby. And they really have their power through denial. Women will not have to do this. Women can't study. Gay people are not allowed. Fatwa nonsense. And not allowing that, and they're sensible Muslims saying that nobody's listening to them. I'm sure there are many people like that.
Soumya Smita Mukherjee says that there's so much information in his books. I love to read them. Thank you, sir, for such lovely books. We come to know so much. Thank you again. Raj Shekhar says, is the book available?
Yes, it is.
As plug moment. Is the book available? Yes, it is. This is what it looks like. It's beautiful. It's pink. It's called Shyam. I must ask you this, and this is honestly how I feel, and I've actually never talked about it. I believe that religion of all kinds, including the one that I was raised in, just ties us down at this point. They're just, like you said, rules. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And however it might have started, whatever the pure thought was when it started, it has now become an organized way to control people. Yes. And I'm saying this about all religions, and I know you guys are going to write hate to me, but I'm saying this about all religions. Also, all religions subjugate women. I don't know why, but they all do. Control people, control women specifically to control society. Have we, you know, the modern idea of who is a Hindu? Again, you've dealt with this extensively, and there's so much going on, there's so much hate, there's so much aggression going on, which is perhaps non-Hindu in some ways. What is your reaction to what we're seeing?
You know, I understand Hindu anger, but one has to be careful when you say that, because everybody will say, oh my God, now I'm saffron robed, lynch loving, Islamophobic and lynch loving.
Who loves you?
So, you know, we are in this extremist worldview, but the thing is, for many, one of the reasons I started writing these books is because when I read intellectuals in India writing about Hinduism, they had reduced it to the caste system.
Yes.
So when you read some of the best historians in our country, I don't want to name them, but when you read some of their writings, not just historians, but also anthropologists, sociologists, the only way to understand Hinduism is through caste system. Globally I go to, they would say, what is a caste system? And I said, it's the most complicated system in the world. And it's even today, if you talk to tough scholars, they'll say, you know, we know what are how it evolved, there are lots of questions, a lot of gaps, how the British have contributed to it, how it has changed over time. It's a very complicated system, but by reducing it, there has always been the sense, so you're always on the defensive. You were always on the defensive, and not many people knew the grandeur of Hinduism.
Okay.
Also, the complexities of, you know, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, the books. That's why these books are so extensively researched, to give you access.
No, but specifically, you said you understand Hindu anger.
Yes, this is where the anger came. This sense of being gagged, and therefore, what happens to, if I gag you for a very long time, you start doing stupid things. You see, and everybody does stupid things, and this is what is happening right now. It has now reached a point, and this pus has burst. And it's a dirt, and somebody's of course going to exploit it, because it's there, out there.
So you believe that, you know, violence in the name of the cow, for example, which is called Hindu, that's...
No, so this is now, I have taken your anger, and I have now given it a form, which also serves other purposes, right? Denial of people's occupations. It's like...
I'm channeling your hate.
I'm channeling your hate, because you see, traditionally, the Jains were non-violent. But we all lived in ghettos. The Jains lived in one area, everybody lived in it. So the butchers lived in another area. They never mingled with each other. So this was the caste system, right? It allowed separation. I don't have to see you slaughter animals, and you can live your life this way. But now, egalitarian, everybody can live anywhere. Now, in front of my house, there's a slaughterhouse. I don't like it anymore. The new world order is now trying to figure out what to do. Because the old order kept everybody just separate. It created ghettos. But the ghetto allowed people to have their own kitchens, their own food habits. Across India, you know, in Chandni Chowk, there's a Jain gully.
You didn't have to smell what was coming out of another
so we go to the Jain,
kitchen.
the money lenders for all the Muslim, the Delhi Sultans were Jain community people.
Yes. And
they were respected. This is your gully, we will not come in here, you have your Jain mandir, and it's the cleanest part of Chandni Chowk, in Old Delhi. They're still there, beautiful temple, beautiful road. But in the middle of this very crowded Muslim locality, how did it happen? These were the old models in India that, you know, different tribal groups living separately.
But that no longer applies.
And now it is, and therefore people who are privileged, when you strip people, when you make people privileged, guilty all the time, they start getting angry. And there was a huge brain drain in India. Economically, we were not doing well. So the smartest groups of people started, but they were not getting access to colleges because of certain policies, migrated to the West. They're carrying the anger with them. And they're waiting. And their anger, who is exploiting? There's another group of people saying, oh, you have been denied access to our country. So these things are happening, and they were there all the time. They were there all the time. They're building up. And a good governor has to, because our politicians are only interested in vote banks, they're not seeing what's going on.
Yes.
This is building up over time, and what we are seeing today is a pus has burst. And you're seeing the dirtiest and the darkest form.
Is there an antibiotic?
Is time.
Oh God.
Because you see, these
but
kind of
you
things
mean that
don't
would
last
just mean
forever.
that we have to drain the abscess before it
drain
heals.
the abscess. So one has to be a little patient and not be reactionary about these things.
Okay.
And we are definitely going through a very dark phase. This kind of celebration of violence. One is being violent. Societies have always been violent. But we are now in this gory celebration of violence for power. And that's the dark side. But I do believe this is happening around the world. And what is happening? It's a pushback.
But you believe, I mean, more importantly, you believe it's a phase and it will play
Everything
out.
is a phase. This is
play
philosophy, no? Aata hai, jata hai. Which king has lasted forever in this whole world? Ozymandias.
That is so true.
So we assume this thing will never go away.
Change is the only constant.
Change is the only constant. And anybody who thinks I'm going to rule forever is a fool. Even Krishna one day moves on.
Mr. Patanaik, I cannot tell you what a pleasure it has been to speak with you today, and I have run out of time, so I'm going to have to wrap this up. But we will ask Mr. Patanaik to come back and speak to us again soon, because I have more questions, and I'm sure my audience has more questions as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
The woman's confession was allegedly used to blackmail her and demand sexual favors. Suspension of these priests, he says, isn't enough. They should be thrown out.
The survey is not your test on patriotism. Shame on all